You know the moment. The one where you just hit send on a message to your crush, and now, your phone becomes your entire world. You sit there, screen glowing in your hand, waiting, watching, refreshing, hoping, maybe she'll see it right away. Maybe she's typing. You keep checking not just every 5 minutes, but every few seconds. Your mind runs through every possibility. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she's out with friends. Maybe she saw it and just doesn't know what to say yet. You start rereading the message, analyzing every word, every emoji. Did you sound too eager? Too dry? Too much? And then the silence stretches. Minutes start to stretch into hours, and it begins to eat at you. You want to believe the best, that she's busy, that she'll reply soon, but deep down, you feel it, that ache, that uncertainty, and with it comes the urge to double text, just something light, a little nudge, a hey, just making sure you saw this, or a hope your day's going well. Anything to reopen the door, to get her attention, to pull her back in. You don't want to seem needy, but you also don't want to be forgotten. It's a battle inside you, one part saying, give her space, another whispering, reach out again. It feels harmless, but you can sense the line between showing care and seeming desperate is getting thin, and you're stuck, unsure which step to take. We've all been there. That haunting silence, that phone that doesn't light up, that gut punch feeling of being left on read, or worse, left unseen. You're not alone in it, but what you do next, that's what defines everything. Because that next moment is either you chasing, or you choosing yourself. Silence. It feels heavy when you're on the receiving end. When you've sent the message and there's no reply, no dots, no read, receipt, nothing. It's like waiting in an empty room for someone who might not even be coming. And your instinct, it's to fill that silence, to break it, to say something, anything that might get a response. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. When someone chooses not to respond, that silence is their response. Every minute that goes by without an answer speaks louder than any words they could send. And yet, most people ignore that. They keep typing, keep trying, thinking if they just say it differently, maybe the result will change. But think about how it feels when someone won't give you space. Imagine you're shopping and a salesperson follows you around the entire store. At first, it's polite, then it's persistent, then it's just uncomfortable. You don't feel more inclined to buy, you feel the urge to leave. That's exactly what happens when you keep messaging someone who's gone quiet. It doesn't make them feel seen, it makes them feel smothered. And the harder you push, the more they pull. Oh, now imagine instead, you say nothing. You go quiet too. That silence, it shifts the dynamic. Suddenly, you're not the one reaching, you're the one choosing stillness. And in that stillness, you regain control. Because silence doesn't mean you've given up. It means you've let go of needing someone else's attention to validate your worth. It creates space for her to notice, wonder, even miss you. But more importantly, it creates space for you to breathe. You don't have to chase what's running. You don't have to speak when you're not being heard. Sometimes, silence says everything. There's something unexpected that happens when you finally stop chasing someone. You give them space to feel your absence. When you're always the one reaching out, always initiating, always checking in, they get used to it. It becomes routine. They never have to wonder where you are or how you feel, because you're always right there. Be with a message, a compliment, a question. But the moment you pull back, something subtle shifts. That consistent pattern breaks. The silence you leave behind becomes louder than any message you could have sent. Human nature is funny like that. We often don't realize the value of something until it's gone. Think of any friendship or relationship where you were always the one making plans. The moment you stop trying, suddenly the other person notices the gap. They might not say it right away, but the question forms in their mind, why haven't I heard from him? That curiosity, that small jolt of realization, the beginning of the reversal. You're no longer the one chasing, you're the one being noticed. This isn't about playing games or trying to manipulate someone's feelings. It's about balance, about self-respect, about stepping back to see who truly wants to meet you halfway. Because the truth is, if someone genuinely cares, they'll feel that space. They'll reach out, and if they don't, that silence speaks volumes. It tells you all you need to know. Pulling back isn't easy, especially when emotions are involved. But it's necessary, because your time, energy, and presence are valuable. When you stop constantly showing up for someone who wouldn't do the same for you, you take the first step toward emotional freedom. You stop waiting, you stop proving, and you start seeing clearly who's meant to stay and who never truly showed up at all. The moment you shift your focus from waiting for her reply to working on yourself, something powerful begins to happen. All that energy you were pouring into the silence, the wondering, the emotional tug of war, it doesn't disappear. It just gets redirected. And where it goes can change everything. Instead of obsessing over a chat window, you start asking deeper questions. What have I been putting off? What have I wanted to do but never made time for? Maybe it's going back to the gym, learning to cook, starting a side hustle, reading more, fixing your sleep, whatever it is. Now's the time. Growth fills the gap where anxiety used to live. When you start taking those small steps, your confidence builds. And with every step forward, your perspective changes. You stop needing someone else to make you feel valuable, because you start seeing that value in yourself. You see it in your discipline, in the way you push yourself even on the hard days. You begin to carry yourself differently, not in a showy way, but with quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need to beg for attention. I heard about a guy who, after a rough rejection, started waking up at a.m. every day. He trained, read, learned new skills. 6 months later, the girl who ghosted him reached out. But he wasn't the same person anymore. He didn't even feel the need to respond. Not out of spite, but because he had outgrown that version of himself who waited. That's what happens when you grow. You stop chasing people who made you feel small, because you've become too big to fit in those old emotional spaces. The truth is, the more you build your own world, the less you need someone else to complete it. And ironically, that's exactly what makes you magnetic. Clarity is one of those things you don't even realize you're missing until you finally have it. When you're in the middle of emotional confusion, when your thoughts are tangled up in what ifs and maybes, everything feels urgent, dramatic, overwhelming. But the second you step back and stop chasing, you create space. And in that space, clarity starts to surface. It doesn't happen instantly. At first, there's still noise, memories, feelings, unanswered questions. But slowly, day by day, the fog begins to lift. You start to see things as they are, not as you hoped they would be. You remember the unanswered texts, the one-sided effort, the subtle ways she kept her distance. You begin to realize her actions never really matched the image you had of her in your head. And that realization isn't bitter, it's freeing. Because clarity gives you something anxiety never could. Peace. Peace in knowing you tried. Peace in knowing you gave it an honest shot. Peace in accepting that you deserve better than someone who couldn't see your worth. Clarity also turns the spotlight inward. It forces you to ask the hard but necessary questions. What do I truly want in a partner? What kind of energy am I willing to accept? What are my non-negotiables? These answers don't just shape your next relationship, they shape you. And once you've gained that level of self-awareness, your standards rise. You stop settling for crumbs because you've learned to value the full meal. Then something incredible happens. When she finally does reach out, and sometimes they do, you're no longer the same person who was waiting for her message. You're the person who found clarity in silence, who grew in the absence, and who learned that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And it's the beginning of choosing you every time.